Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. Dandavat pranams. So we're continuing with our reading of the fourth canto, which is with the hopes to inspire us to continue reading daily our Bhagavatam. So previously I tried to show this canto in context and show its continuity from the beginning, the first verse. First verse was discussing the essence, the Satyam Paramadimahi. So what are those two essences? One was from Srila Vishnu Chandra Thakur. Bhakti Devi herself is the essence. And what was Srila Gurudev's? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gora Ras. Understand? Everyone got that fixed, embedded? Because without this clarity, the rest of it doesn't really, it's not supported. What is our meditation? Satyam Paramadimahi. So even though we're reading today about Druva Maharaj, how would you say that ties in with Gora or Bhakti? Or would you just say off the top of your head? It's a deep meditation to actually consider it. You can consider it for hours, how to actually see it as what would be just in my mouth. Okay. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. You all hear what she said? In the pastime of Druva Maharaj, he's actually described as a Sakam Bhakta. There's 5 types of Bhaktas described, but Druva comes before the 5. There's a Jnani Bhakta, a Shuddha Bhakta, a Premi Bhakta, Para Prema Bhakta, and a Prematura Bhakta. So these 5, but Druva comes as Sakam, before then even. So Anita was explaining that Sakam, Karm means activity. Sa, that prefix, means we want something from the activity. A Sakam Karma Bhakta is someone who's doing something with a definite intention of getting a result. So as Anita just described, Druva was performing this tapas, tremendous tapas, but he had a definite material desire. And when he realized his desire, when Vishnu manifested in front of him, then he felt like he had been just searching for broken glass, and instead he'd found a jewel. And he realized that actually this fulfillment of this desire was nothing at all in comparison to pure devotion, which is what he prayed for after that. So he got his material result, but then he prayed after that many times to Kubera, to different personalities, to please benedict him with pure bhakti. So this is one aspect that we can consider in the light of this. Oh, no, I'm very warm actually, but I'll hold it on my lap just to honor you. Very nice, thank you. Also, the remarkable aspect of, well, what does Druva mean? Dhru means determination. So this incredible determination that he exhibited as a 5-year-old boy to attain his goal. So if we can have a particle of this type of determination to achieve our goal of Shuddha Bhakti, then we're getting a definite jewel from this pastime. There are many sweetnesses and wealth actually within this pastime, we'll discover as we go through. But if our core desire is to appreciate the gifts of Mahaprabhu, which ultimately is Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Karite Prachan. This is what Mahaprabhu came to give us. So this is what we have as our focus point. So we're not taking this out of any sort of context from the pure vision, that's Satyam Paramadimahi. And also, so just to bring us up to speed here, so I was describing in the middle of the third canto, chapter 12, how Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa manifest, this divine couple. And now he has 2 sons and 3 daughters. Do you remember the names of the sons? Prasuti is one daughter. Akuti is another daughter. Devahuti is another daughter. Sons? Uttanapad and who? Priyavrata. So, who is Druva's father? Uttanapad. So we're linked, you see, from the third canto, middle of the third canto, we're linked in the dynasty, in the line. So this is why Maitreya Rishi is discussing Druva. It's not, there are so many different personalities, but he's discussing Druva. Of course, Druva is an exceptional personality because ultimately he has darshan of the Supreme Lord. So this just changes the entire personality of Druva because he actually has darshan of Krishna directly, of Vishnu directly. So this is why Maitreya. Now, coming back to what Stuart was talking about a couple of days ago about these personalities, greed and lying and cheating, etc. This is mentioned very, very briefly. It's not like, it's just like a detail. There's only about 7 verses here, or 8 verses, describing these personalities, but they are here in the beginning of this chapter. So because you brought it up the other day, we should actually just get it out. So I'm just going to start reading here and see how far we get. The first chapter probably is the most important in a sense to the pastime, expressing the glories, depicting the glories of Druva. So we'll certainly hear this together, and then we'll go on to see what transpired in the rest of Druva's birth. So I'll start here from the beginning, and you interrupt me if there's anything you want to go more deeply into or say something.
You're just speaking about Druva, and I'm just wondering how someone can deal with all sorts of material desires. I mean, the greatest material desire that we know of, besides desire for merging or for, solution. How someone with those kind of desires can receive the direction of the Supreme Lord.
That's what we're going to discover. That's what the pastime is about. It's about the quality of Kshatriya, which gives him that determination. It's coming from his Kshatriya strain. Swayambhuva Manu is born in the Kshatriya caste. So the quality of that Kshatriya caste is tremendous determination. So he's the embodiment of that quality in that caste. But his determination was to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was his determination, because he wanted the fruitive result from it. Nevertheless, he still wanted to please that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So no endeavor towards Krishna can ever go in vain. So with that intensity of determination, was that your question?
I'm going to listen to see.
It's answered.
I'm sure it will be.
What he's saying is very beautiful, because actually this is the quality of the Bhagavatam. Whatever question or whatever restlessness we may be experiencing, will always be pacified as soon as we open the pages of the Bhagavatam. If ever you're feeling flustered or disturbed, which is often in this Kali Yuga, right? It happens, even to the best of devotees. But as soon as you pick up the Bhagavatam and start to read 2 or 3 verses, immediately that disturbance begins to evaporate. It's mystical. It's completely mystical. And it should give us great shraddha and faith in this. Just like chanting, it has the same potency. It's a different quality because it's Krishna directly. Prabhupada, our Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, describes that Krishna's footprint is on every single page of the Bhagavatam. So we should never forget this.
There's a chapter that says Bhagavatam to be answered all questions.
Yes, yes, all questions. It's the end of all questions. Yes, absolutely. Bhagavad Gita. Yes, as I say. Absolutely. So Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course. But this Bhagavatam, because of its length, we need to actually read it regularly to get the full purport. And we should take inspiration from the acharyas like Jiva Goswami, who compiled Sandarbhas. One time Srila Gurudev said that everything that he knows has come from the Sandarbhas. When you read or look at the Sandarbhas, you get an idea of someone who's really drank so deeply this Bhagavatam, because he literally just runs up and down the different cantos, drawing out all these different truths. Principally the truth of love and affection for the Lord. In the Priti Sandarbha, that's his conclusion. Sandarbhas are composed by Jiva Goswami, and you should look at them, Stuart. You'd really appreciate them. It's a total analysis. He just strips the whole Bhagavatam apart and just goes into such detail. The Tattva Sandarbha, substantiating the relevance of this Bhagavatam in our lives, all acutely, shastrically supported. And he goes through this very beautifully, and then he culminates in the 6th Sandarbha, it's called, and it's all the Bhagavatam. It's all description of the Bhagavatam. It's a tremendous body of knowledge, and this is where Srila Gurudev claims that he got all his information, knowledge, and respect for the Bhagavatam. So now we come to the pastime. Yesterday we were discussing Shivji and Sati, and the glorious qualities of Shiva, and the glorious qualities, of course, of Vishnu, who manifested in the sacrificial arena to make everything balanced and all composed and harmonious again. So now we're coming to Druva, who is the son of Uttanapad. But first, for a few verses, I just want to share with you this part of this chapter. So Maitreya Rishi said the 4 Kumaras headed by Sanaka, as well as Narad, Ribu, Hamsa, Aruni, and Yati, all sons of Brahma. So someone asked the question yesterday, where did the place get populated? Well, the planets. These are all different sons of Brahma, so many. Did not get married, but became Udva Reti, or Naishtiki Brahmacharis. And now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, at the beginning of every chapter, he personally links everything together. Actually, if you get a chance to read these Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries, it's very, very inspiring. Recently, I just had the time to read all 12, but then when I came back to our Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada's commentaries, then it was like such a warm embrace, because he's writing very much directly for us. It's a different quality. These Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has a lot of extra information and direction and connection, but nevertheless to come back to Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada is tremendous warmth, because of, you can sense his bhav, his mood, his urgency, that he wanted us to have this knowledge. So I'm just going to read a little bit of his commentary. In the 8th chapter, Druva, burned by the poison of his stepmother's words and inspired by the nectar of his mother's words, pleases the Lord by austerities at Madhuvan. And then he goes on, the lineages of Manu's daughters were described, and the lineages from Brahma's sons, such as Marichi, were also mentioned in the process. So we've gone through this. One time a devotee mentioned to me, oh, this chronological order is so like tedious, but if we have affection for Krishna, this whole material universe has been manifested by his desire. So what does it entail, and where are its origins? Where is it all coming from? This is all wonderful information leading us to the creator ultimately of this arrangement is Krishna. So it's all a feature, a facet of Krishna. So it's all completely pertinent to our path of bhakti. The lineages from Manu's daughters were described, and the lineages from Brahma's sons, such as Marichi, were also mentioned in the process. Though Manu's sons should now be described, first, the remaining sons of Brahma are described briefly. This is the point. They're sons of Lord Brahma, just as Marichi is. So, O killer of the enemy, this is Vidura. He's calling him killer of the enemy because Vidura will actually kill Adharma, which is about to be spoken about. Lord Brahma's son, Adharma, had a wife named Lying. She gave birth to twins called Cheating and Illusion, Nriti, who had no children, and accepted them as his children, Adharma. O great soul, from cheating and illusion were born greed and deceit. From their combination came children named anger and violence, and from their combination were born quarrel and his sister profanity. O greatest of good men, Vidura, Maitreya is talking to him, quarrel produced in profanity the children named fear and death. From the combination of death and fear came children named pain and hell. So you pretty much got the whole kaleidoscope of all those, lower type personalities all coming in the one family. It's Bhagavatam has everything. Right? Nothing is omitted. O sinless Vidura, briefly I have described destruction. One who hears this purifying description 3 times cleanses his mind of all sin. So this is the benediction from hearing this, from having the conception to personalize these defects in our lives. Then we create some space between them. We don't claim them completely to be our own. Oh, I am angry. There's a separation between my anger and myself. Myself is pure spirit soul. This anger has actually come into my part of my consciousness, but it's not me. I don't have to claim it. I can see it with some, distance. So perhaps this is the meaning when it's saying that purifying description, hearing it 3 times, cleanses the mind of all sin. Would you agree? Or how else can we recognize that? Yeah, well, this is what it's saying. And then he's saying a small commentary here. He says, in summary, this means, pratisarga means destruction. The above description is called destruction because it is the cause of destruction. So how do you understand that? Hearing adharma, cheating, lying, profanity, quarrel, etc., hypocrisy. How is this destruction? Because we're separating them from claiming them as coming from me. All right? And then he's finishing, O sinless Vidura, you are not of this family of adharma. The description is purifying because by hearing it, one can avoid these items. So it's like the anartas, the 4 different anartas that the Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mercifully highlights for us. Once we know these anartas, it's like knowing the minefield. You can navigate around them. Once you know the enemy, then you can take some, intelligence to avoid that enemy. So once we know this family, we should avoid it. Okay. Huh?
Death is one of those sorrows. Death we cannot avoid. And Krishna says, I am death.
None of these sons have been called death.
One of them.
Was it?
After health.
Oh, at the very end, yes, sorry, you're right. From the combination of death and fear came children, pain and hell. Yes, death.
Death we cannot avoid. And Krishna says,
So anger, hypocrisy, all these other ones we cannot avoid, but when we are enlightened, which is the purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and death we do avoid. We're not going to die. Who said we're going to die?
We will.
We're not going to die.
Krishna says, I am death personified.
Huh?
Krishna himself says, I am death personified.
Yes, but for the soul doesn't die. Prabhupada has said, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada has said, that death is simply, listening? This is very important. Death is just a symptom of material consciousness. So anger, quarrel, hypocrisy, all of these things, they're all aspects of material consciousness. They're not pertaining to the soul itself. See? You understand, Shashikala?
Yeah, well, I think so.
Well, no, from the highest consideration, which is where we have to jump to reading the Bhagavatam. This is why the Bhagavatam is so gentle on the heart, because it takes us to that highest conception. It reminds us, just like Srila Gurudev would look at us and he'd bring that spiritual awareness up from within us just by his glance. Similarly, this Bhagavatam can bring that highest conception. It is the truth. I am not this body. Whether I realize it or not is a whole other question. But the fact is, because the body is so temporary, I am this soul.
What's the result of hearing Bhagavatam?
You tell me.
No, like in the history of Druva, when Lachita was chasing the parrot.
Oh, yes.
Right,
And
you
he was
become
asked.
immortal, so by hearing Bhagavatam, it's about that either.
Did you hear that, Shashikala? He says, by hearing the Bhagavatam, also there is no death. Vyasadeva is saying to Lord Shiva, you become immortal, so how can you kill the parrot that took shelter in the wife of Vyasadeva? But this understanding, we should make some progress towards this understanding of.
When Krishna says I am that personified, is because it's going to show his universal form, as explained to Arjuna, that he is the material manifestation which death is.
Krishna himself, you're saying, is like the universal form, so he himself is
And he's going to show to Arjuna his universal
showing that death is part of this.
Yes, he's saying I am responsible for the death of material beings.
Yes. Destruction. Destruction is one of the topics, actually, of the Bhagavatam, is destruction itself. There's nirodha. Detachment and destruction is described. Okay? Okay.
I think that it's even amplified in one of the demon Kali was one of the children also. And in Canto, I understand that as Krishna kills all these demons, there's like a representative of each one of these that happens. But this demon Kali, unicycle after unicycle after unicycle keeps being elevated to this position. And why is that particular demon something that Krishna doesn't defeat if he defeats all these other ones? So we have to keep enduring this cycle.
Because that's the way he made the cycles. Because this is the age of Kali. This is his age, and he has he has 1,000 ages inside one day of Lord Brahma. That's his dharma, that's his destination.
I mean, but all these other things get defeated. Why not just...
Because going through this age, for us in particular, going through this age with these torturous, qualities that we have to endure, brings out something very, very special in the jiva if he can actually surmount this every single time. It's like the intensity of the misery and the wretchedness of this planet. Today we can look around, talk forever about, social injustice and all the rest of it, and all the all this stuff, It has to bring out something very special within us to actually maintain a level of bhakti. And, that's a very special quality amongst all this. So Krishna leaves it there to... This is one answer. I'm sure there are many. Huh? Yes, that come out. Yeah, these qualities are there, like in the jiva, and because of the atmosphere of the age, these qualities flourish. It's like malaria, for example. If it's in a sort of in the right climate, then it'll come out. So it's designed in this fashion to actually manifest in that way. Krishna does eventually every time he kills Kalki. Well, Kalki kills the qualities. He destroys the whole civilization, and then the fragrance from his lotus feet enters the nostrils of those remaining, and immediately that fragrance wakes up a higher state of consciousness, and then Satyayuga begins from there. So the jiva is thrown into all different categories. It's described in the 16th chapter of Jivadharma, that the jiva is put into all different sorts of situations, not only different bodies, 8,400,000 species, but also different atmospheres in the human form as we go through. But these are... Parikshit Maharaj could have killed Kali. He had Kali personified right in front of him. But then Kali just came like a wimp and was sort of surrendering to Parikshit. So a Kshatriya can't kill if someone surrenders to them in that way. So Kali, he's in the first canto. So then Parikshit designates where he should go, where there's gold and women. Is that right? Just gold and women? Gold and money. Gold and what?
Well, there's hoarding of wealth.
Hoarding of wealth. Yeah.
Sex, intoxication, gambling, taking.
Actually, reading this and then coming to Druva Maharaj is like a breath of fresh air. So that's another good point about Druva. Let's go to Druva. O best of the Kurus, I shall now describe the descendants of famous Swayambhuva Manu, who produced parts of the Lord. So we're going to see more of that. From Manu's lineage came portions of the Lord, such as Kapila, Yagya, Prithu, and Rishab. Yesterday Anita was commenting how all of the daughters had personalities of Vishnu manifest as their children, and this is just reiterating that. By his wife Satarupa, Swayambhuva Manu had two sons, Uttanapat and Priyavrata, who appeared to protect the world as portions of Vasudeva. King Uttanapat had two queens named Suniti and Suruchi. These names are very important. Suniti means she followed neti, she followed the instructions, or you can say nishta. Su, the prefix, means very much. So Suniti, she followed very closely, like she was a dharmic wife. And Suruchi, she had material taste. This ruchi is actually a material taste. So he had these two queens. One was very dharmic, and one was very materialistically minded, but he was attracted to the material one. Of the two, Suruchi was dear to the king. Suniti, who had a son named Druva, was not dear to him. Once the king, Uttanapad, placing the son of Suruchi, Uttam, on his lap, was patting him. He did not acknowledge Druva, who wanted to climb on his lap also. Suruchi who was very proud, spoke with spite to the child trying to climb on his father's lap, while the king was able to hear. "My child, you do not deserve to sit on the lap of the king, because although you are also the king's son, you did not take your birth from my womb." Yeah, so horrible. "You are a child. Therefore you, having a desire for the impossible, do not know that you were born from the womb of another woman. Worshipping the Lord by austerities, by his mercy, place yourself in my womb if you want to sit on the king's lap." She couldn't have been more explicitly harsh. Yeah, she said this. This is a fact. This is a fact. I'll read you the commentary. "Her talk is to show the king that she has devotion, but she is not a real devotee. You must place yourself in my womb. Now, satisfying the Lord by 3, 4, 5, or 6 bratas for getting into my womb, you should then quickly die. I will see your mother weeping. May you and I be happy." So, this is the nature of...
She was already the favorite queen, but she just wanted to get rid of it.
Absolutely. Gone to our head. So insulting. Maitreya said, pierced by the harsh words, because this is what's going to lead to his entire endeavor. It's this prompting. Sometimes there's all different other stories too of prompting, like even Prahlad Maharaj in his previous birth was prompted by that relationship with the prostitute, and then left for the night and fasted on Ekadashi and took shelter in an old Nrsimhadev temple. That whole pastime. There's different pastimes where devotees have been put into such material, difficulty that it's actually led to a burst of enthusiasm to get out. Sometimes we suffer in this world in that way. Pierced by the harsh words of his mother's co-wife, breathing heavily in anger, like a snake struck by a stick, he left his silent father, who was watching, and went to his mother weeping. His father was silent, because he was weak-minded, it's described. This is Uttanapad. This is the son of Swayambhuva Manu. So,
regarding Ram and Dashrath, that Ram said that his father's silence was proof of his complicity. And so in this case also, his father was silent.
yes,
It's maybe weakness, but it's also complicity.
yes,
And
he
that also
agrees.
affects us.
Yes.
If we're silent about...
If we don't speak up,
If we don't
yes.
speak up to defend the truth, then we're also
yes,
complicit.
absolutely, absolutely. You all heard that? If we are also silent when adharma or apasiddhanta is being spoken, if I say something completely apasiddhantic today and no one says anything, then you're all complicit in the apparat. So check me, be careful. Keep your wires out. Suniti lifted her son, who was breathing heavily, with trembling lips, onto her lap, and hearing from the citizens what had happened, she felt pain at the words of the co-wife. Like a forest creeper burned by the forest fire of lamentation, the woman, remembering the words of the co-wife and losing her self-control, began to shed tears from her lotus eyes. Breathing heavily, not seeing an end to her suffering, she said to her son, "O son, do not find fault in others, because those who have given suffering to others previously receive the same in this life." So she's a dharmic, noble personality. What Suruchi said is true. Because you have been held in my womb, an unfortunate person, she's saying, You have grown up by my breast milk, but the king is ashamed to accept me as his wife, or even as his servant. Must have been a pretty tough situation then. If you desire to be seated like your brother, then without envy of Suruchi, execute the true words uttered by her. Worship the lotus feet of the Lord. So who was saying that? You commented, yeah. By worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, who is worshipped by those who control the mind and breath, and who assumes sattva gun for maintaining the universe, Brahma attained his supreme position. And Manu, your grandfather, worshipping the Lord with concentrated intelligence, with great charity and sacrifices, achieved happiness on earth, in heaven, and later achieved liberation, which is difficult to achieve by other means. O child, take shelter of the Lord, who is affectionate to his servant, and whose footsteps are sought by aspirants for liberation. Worship the Lord, fixing him in your mind, purified by bhakti, with attachment to nothing else. I do not find anyone who can extinguish your suffering except the lotus-eyed Lord, who is sought by Lakshmi, who holds a lotus in her hand, and who is sought by Brahma and others. Maitreya said, hearing his mother's words, which would fulfill his desire, controlling his mind by his intelligence, he left the house of his father. So that's deeply significant. Narad, hearing this and thus understanding the activities of the boy, became astonished, and touching the boy's head with his hand, which destroys all sins, then spoke to himself. Hang on a second. Narad, hearing this and thus understanding the activities of the boy, became astonished, and, touching the boy's head with his hand, which destroys all sins, then spoke to himself. Oh, so these are Narad's thoughts now. What Kshatriya spirit? Kshatriyas are unable to tolerate a slight to their pride. Though only a boy, he has taken the unkind words of his stepmother seriously. Narad said, O child, you are a young boy attached to playing. I do not see at this time that you should feel honored or disrespected. Therefore, understanding that karma is produced by the Lord's will, the intelligent person should be satisfied with the amount of happiness and distress received through his karma. So Narad's trying to pacify him philosophically. It is my opinion, the Lord, whose mercy you desire to attain by the process taught by your mother, is difficult for men to worship. Sages searching for many births with attachment by samadhi and severe yoga do not understand the path of the Lord. Therefore you should give up this useless endeavor. When the proper time comes, when you are older, you can attempt this. Satisfying himself amidst happiness and distress with these experiences which are given to him by karma, the embodied person surpasses samsara. So then Narad, he carries on speaking, and Druva, he responds. Druva said, this peacefulness of mind with which you have shown by mercy for persons afflicted by happiness and distress is difficult for a person like me to understand. Since I am not submissive because of having an intolerant Kshatriya spirit, your instructions do not remain in my heart, which has been pierced by the arrows of Suruchi's harsh words. O Brahmana, please tell me the correct method for me, desiring the best position in the three worlds, which has not been attained by my forefathers or others. This is when his vow becomes clear. He wants something higher than his forefathers. His forefathers is Swayambhuva Manu and Lord Brahma himself. He wants a destination higher than this. You, the son of Brahma, playing a veena, travel like the sun for the welfare of the world. He's glorifying Narad. Maitreya said, the great Narad, upon hearing the words of Druva and being pleased with the boy, out of mercy, gave him good instructions. And then he tells him, the highest path described by your mother is the path I recommend. The Lord is Vasudeva. Worship him with concentrated mind. If one desires the goal of Dharma, Artha, Karma and Moksha, worship the feet of the Lord is the only method to achieve them. O child, good fortune to you. Go to pure Madhuvan on the bank of the Yamuna river, where the Lord resides eternally. And then he's giving him instructions. I'll jump ahead a little bit, and telling him how to meditate. And Druva, he takes all this very seriously. In the meantime, Narad goes back to King Uttanapad, who has become devastated that actually now Druva has left the palace, and Narad tells him of what has happened, and that Druva will return after 6 months. And in the meantime, Uttanapad, he actually begins to treat Suniti with more respect. So then we come to when Druva reaches Madhuvan. I'll just try to finish at least this chapter. I wanted to do 5 chapters today. I will do 5 chapters, we'll just talk them in brief. But I'm limited, my body, how much I can actually do at the moment. After taking bath in Madhuvan, Druva, and fasting that night, Druva, then being purified, then worshipped the Lord with full attention as instructed by Narad. Eating kapita and badara berries only every 3rd night to maintain the body, he passed 1 month in worshipping the Lord. In the 2nd month, the boy ate only dry grass and leaves every 6 days while worshipping the Lord. In the 3rd month, he drank only water every 9 days, worshipping the Lord in samadhi. It just occurred to me they do these incredible austerities in Satya Yuga, but actually we do the same austerity just by chanting Hare Krishna. In this age, we can attain a higher result even than this, just by chanting Hare Krishna. This is the yajna for this age. In the 4th month, having controlled his breathing, he took only air as food every 12 days and worshipped by meditating on the Lord. In the 5th month, controlling his breath, the prince, meditating on the Lord, stood motionless like a pillar on 1 foot. Controlling the mind, completely meditating on the form of the Lord, which is not perceivable by material senses, he did not see anything. When Druva meditated on the Lord, the shelter of all the elements, the Lord of matter and the jivas, and the 3 worlds began to tremble. When the prince stood on 1 leg, the earth, pressed by his big toe, sank lower than a half pradesh, just as a boat with an elephant rocks from side to side with each of its steps. This is the power of his austerity. When Druva, blocking all the doors of his body and stopping his life airs, meditated on the Lord, with his intelligence merged in the total intelligence, the people of the universe, along with the devatas, becoming completely breathless, went to the Supreme Lord. And then the devas, they beseeched the Lord to rectify this situation. And then it's described that the Lord understands what is happening and describes that this is due to the austerities of Druva. So now Maitreya continues. Now we're in the 9th chapter. Maitreya said, relieved of their fear, offering respects to the Lord, the devatas returned to heaven. By means of Garuda, the Lord went to Madhuvan with a desire to see his servant. Now this is the description of the Lord. Seeing that the Lord, brilliant as lightning, who had manifested in the lotus of his heart by intense meditation of advanced yoga, had disappeared suddenly, Druva saw that form situated externally. Druva, who was agitated on seeing the Lord, offered respects by falling flat on the earth. He seemed to drink the sweetness of the Lord with his eyes, kiss his feet by bowing his head, and embrace him with his arms by touching the tips of his feet. The Lord, situated in everyone's heart and in Dhruva's heart as well, seeing that Druva, who was standing with folded hands, wanted to speak, but did not know how to express himself properly. Druva hadn't been to Gurukul, any training in mantras, etc. Touched him on the forehead with his conch, which is non-different from the Vedas. Having gained words to describe the Lord, understanding the difference between Jiva and the Lord, and possessing only devotion as his goal, Druva, who would attain an indestructible abode, then praised the Lord, whose fame is widespread. So it's saying that he possessed only devotion. After he achieved as soon as he had darshan of Krishna, then only a mood of devotion. All his desires came completely disappeared, evaporated by the purity of Krishna's presence. So even though his bhakti was motivated, but as soon as he attained the goal, then that motivation finished. Because we see in the rest of his life, he's only praying for devotion to the Lord, because he's seen the incredible beauty of the Lord. Then there's very beautiful prayers, and Druva is offering very blissful prayers in this 9th chapter, and explaining so much of the Vedic teachings which have come from Krishna directly in his prayers, amongst his prayers. He says, for example, "O unborn Lord, previously I knew the variety of gross and subtle elements manifested as animals, plants, birds, snakes, devatas, demons, humans, and total universal form, composed of Mahatattva and other elements. O Supreme, but I did not know what was superior to that material form, and did not know the form of Brahman, in which sound does not exist." So he's gone beyond the Brahman because he's seen the direct form and personality of the Lord. So this is very instructive for the sadhak to contemplate these prayers and read them. And then Krishna begins to speak. "O Prince, determined in vows, I know what you resolved in your heart. All auspiciousness to you, I will reward you, that place rarely achieved, and also prem." He will reward Druva prem. "Fortunate boy, I give you that radiant place which is eternal, not attained by anyone else. The zodiac of planets, constellations, and stars revolve around it like oxen walking around a central pillar to grind grains. That place remains till the end of Brahma's life. Bharani, Kartika, Cancer, Venus, and the Big Dipper revolve around Druva Loka in clockwise direction, along with the stars." So if you know the Vedic astrology, you can piece that together clearly. "After your father gives you the earth and retires to the forest, you will rule the earth using dharma for 36,000 years, with no decay of the senses. Your brother Uttam will die while hunting, and his mother, attached to him, searching for him in the forest, will enter a forest fire. You will go to my abode, worshipped by all planets, higher than the Big Dipper, from which you will not return, having gone there." Maitreya said, "The Lord, after being worshipped and having offered his abode, then departed for his own abode on Garuda while the boy watched." So now I'm just going to speak one particular part here. So then Druva, he goes back to the kingdom, and it's very beautiful when the king meets him. The king who had stood or sat silently while he was so harshly insulted, now his heart has completely melted towards Druva, because Druva has had darshan directly of Vishnu. Not only the king, but his stepmother, Suruchi, it's described. Suniti and Suruchi, the two queens ornamented with gold, mounting a palanquin along with Uttam, also went out of the palace to meet the returning Druva. Seeing his son approaching near a grove, then it's described the king's emotional embracing his son. But this part I want to reach. Suruchi, then, first of all, when Druva met the two mothers, bowing at his father's feet and receiving blessings of mantras after he's met his father, Druva, the foremost among good men, was welcomed. He then bowed to his two mothers with his head. Suruchi raised the boy up when he fell at her feet. Embracing him, she said with a choked voice and tears, "May you live long." Just as water flows naturally in the lower level, all living beings naturally offer respect to that person with whom the Lord is pleased because of his qualities and friendliness. This is a beautiful example of that. How the stepmother, who was so harsh, is now actually embracing him, and Druva goes to her first, showing his forgiveness towards Suruchi. It was Suruchi who inspired his whole ordeal in the forest. And now, because of the association of the Lord, he's acting in such an exemplary way. Overwhelmed with affection, Uttam and Druva embraced each other. Their hair stood on end and torrents of tears appeared. Embracing her son, dearer to her than her life heirs, Suniti, his mother, gave up her grief and was satisfied by touching his body. And then it goes on, the pastime. So in the rest of this pastime, this story, Uttam is killed by yakshas, and Druva becomes infuriated and he goes to the north. And in the meantime, Suruchi, as is described previously, enters a forest fire in lamentation from her son. But Druva goes to the north and starts to kill hundreds of thousands of yakshas. And the yakshas, there's a very beautiful description of all the battle. And then the yakshas, they cover him with their mystical illusions. And it seems that Druva at one point is going to be completely annihilated, and the sages become very afraid. And then actually other sages, they come to Druva, it's described, and they inspire him with mantras. And then Druva, bending his Narayan bow, he clears all of this illusion. There's a beautiful painting on the front of one of the Bhagavatams. And then Druva continues killing these innocent yakshas. And then Swayambhuva Manu appears and cautions Druva to stop this killing of all these other yakshas. He said, it was only one yaksha who actually killed your brother, and you're killing hundreds of thousands of yakshas. So there's a very beautiful chapter here where Swayambhuva Manu instructs Druva in Dharma, in pure Dharma.
I just want to add a little comment in Prabhupada's purport of the section where Druva Maharaj is dispelling the illusions that the yakshas gave him. They had come at him with so many different weapons and pouring out of the sky and everything. And he dispelled it, I think, with the Narayan Ashtra.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and
From his Narayan bow.
Okay, so but he dispelled the illusions with that.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada in his commentary, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he said that, and now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come with Sangopanga Ashtra.
Oh, very beautiful.
He said Sangopanga Ashtra is the Ashtra to remove all illusions, all lamentation, all suffering. And that is Harinam Sankirtan.
Jai. Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. So then Druva very patiently and politely and submissively listens to Swayambhuva Manu, and then he follows that instruction. And at that time Kuvera, who is in charge of the yakshas, comes in front of Druva, and there's a very nice exchange between Kuvera and Druva. And at that time Kuvera asks Druva for any benediction. Kuvera is the treasurer of all the higher planets. He asks any benediction you want. He has. Druva responds. What does he respond? Devotion. Please give me devotion. So again, it's confirmed that actually by that darshan of the Lord, his mood now is only to acquire pure devotion. And then he goes back to the kingdom, and in the meanwhile, I didn't mention, but Uttanapad has left for the forest when Druva took over the kingship. And then Druva himself, he also departs for the forest, and he performs his meditation, and considering that body, wives, children, friends, military power, treasury, female quarters, beautiful parks, and the whole area surrounded by the oceans would all be destroyed by time, he went to Badrik Ashram. He saw the very temporary nature of everything in existence by his, the mercy of the Lord. This is what we pray for, to have this detachment. So, purifying his senses there, he bathed in the pure water, sat in the proper position, controlled his breathing, withdrew his senses by the mind, and concentrated on the substitute form of the Lord, the universal form. Meditating continuously on the actual form of the Lord, he then gave up the universal form in samadhi. Constantly engaged in bhakti to the Supreme Lord, he was constantly afflicted by tears of bliss. His heart melted, his hair stood on end. He could not remember his body, since he was free from bodily identification. And then a beautiful transcendental vimana appears, and illuminating the sky in all directions. And there were two persons, the best of the devatas, with dark complexion. And then Druva was invited into this vimana, and he circumambulates that vimana. He also performs purificatory acts before he actually wants to climb into the vimana. Then as he's climbing into that spaceship, then death personified actually comes to claim his body. And Druva, he uses death personified as a stepping stone to get into the vimana.
His body fell off and the skin of his neck comes off, he didn't even notice it.
Let me just read that part. At the time, Druva saw death approaching him. Placing his foot on the head of death, he boarded that astounding abode. Drums sounded, the best of Gandharvas sang, and showers of flowers fell. As he was ascending, then, it doesn't say that part specifically in the translations, but then as he was ascending to his new abode of Druvaloka, then he began to consider his unfortunate mother and where she was. And understanding the desire of Druva, the two associates of the Lord showed him that his mother was also going in an airplane in front of him while being showered by flowers. So this brings us to the conclusion. And then there's glorification of Druva at the end of this chapter. So we've actually covered in an hour 5 chapters. Whew. I didn't think we were going to make it. Krishnadas has to explain about Druvaloka. He understands this. You understand this clearly? Druvaloka? Pole star, yeah.
The shine of the pole star is the shine of Druva's personality.
The shine of what?
The shine of the star is his personality, his purity. When we look at the Polaris, we've seen the shine of the purity of Druva's soul.
Really? That's beautiful. He's saying that the shining of the pole star is the shining of Druva's purity, personality. Huh? No. Doesn't say that about the sun. No.
He was the grandson of the first monk.
Yes, Swayambhuva Manu.
Murdering a different monk.
7th Manu. Vaivashvata Manu.
So
No, well, what's the answer to her question? It's a very nice question. Who's Dhruva's consort? Yes. But she's asking who is his consort. Do you know, Krishnadas, who is the consort of Druva? It's not stated. If it's not stated, then we don't know it. We can't. Maybe somebody knows, but I don't know. But I'm sure he was there with a consort, because he's the king.
It's in the Vishnu Purana, if someone reads the names there.
In the Vishnu Purana. Ah. What were you saying?
Bhagavatam said that he was told by the Lord that he doesn't have to worry, that he won't become attached to the kingdom,
Right.
that he has to rule for 36,000 celestial years or something like that.
That kingdom is here. He rules here for 36,000 years.
But then the pole star.
Then he goes to the pole star afterwards,
My question is,
which is an eternal abode.
it's the eternal abode, but it's still contained within the material universe, isn't it?
Yeah, this is why Krishna has us to
So, my question is, this is from the first month, starting Druva month,
Right.
which is
Going to go through
millions, hundreds of
for
millions of years.
4,320 more million years of the day and the night, so it's 8 billion years.
740 million.
But it's still a limited amount of time.
Right, so we still see.
And then it says, no, I remember now. Then it says, after this, previously, when Krishna was giving the benedictions in Madhuvan, then you will come to Vaikuntha. You will come to my abode. He says this.
We still see the pole star shining. But I would
Because it's
expect-
here now. It is Druva now. He hasn't gone there yet.
I would expect that he would be in Vaikuntha.
No, we just haven't. Swayambhuva Manu is just 7 manas away. We haven't finished. No, we haven't finished the rest of it. We got another, 7 to go. We're halfway there, you're right. We're halfway there. 1 day of Brahma. But that's only 1 day of Brahma. This is a lifetime of Brahma. So it's 42 trillion years. A lifetime of Lord Brahma.
Our Brahma lives for
311 trillion years.
311 trillion years. 311 trillion years. I'm learning a lot today. I didn't get all these figures down before. 311 trillion years. So that's how long the pole star will be shining. And after that, then Druva, he says, I'll read it to you.
So he's basically
Just a minute.
serving them capacity.
After worshipping me, the heart of sacrifice. No. Where is it? Then you will rule the earth using Dharma for 36,000 years with no decay of the senses. That's 36,000 years. Then he's telling the prophecy about Uttama, etc. You will go to my abode. After worshipping me, the heart of sacrifice, by sacrifices and bountiful donations, after enjoying real blessings on earth, you will remember me at death. You will go to my abode, worshipped by all planets, higher than the Big Dipper, from which you will not return, having gone there. That's what it says. From which you will not return indicates that the place is eternal.
That's the polar star.
So it's saying that it's eternal.
His liberation is inside the universe.
But it's saying that it's...
There's no notice about what happens after. He's probably going to be liberated, as you said, at the end of
Lord Brahma's
with Lord Brahma.
with the pralaya.
Prabhupada said that the pole stars, but all the planets and stars are revolving around.
Vishnu
So
is
there's
there.
an eternal, how could everything revolve around the pole?
Huh?
Prabhupada said the pole stars, but all the planets are revolving since the creation
Yes.
of the universe.
Yes. For the lifetime of Lord Brahma. We're trying to figure out, or we're trying to understand the destination of Druva after the pralaya, after the Mahapralaya. So it's not actually mentioned, to my knowledge. So we have some ongoing research. Great. Hare Krishna. Druva Maharaj ki jai, Swayambhu Manu ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Gauta Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, oh Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Oh Hari Bol.